focused on how graphic novels can be a tool for anti-racism in the classroom. Given the growing consensus that graphic novels are a valid tool for English educators, I was interested in how graphic novels might lend themselves to a cooperative and productive conversation surrounding race. The primary questions surrounding my research were what traditional literary tools can be applied to graphic novels, how can graphic novels be used to teach anti-racism, and what can graphic novels do that traditional literature can't or won't? I felt that these questions were significant because scholars agree that graphic novels tend to be more engaging for students, so the next logical step would be to capitalize on that engagement to promote engagement in literary theory. Notably, graphic novels have uniquely humanizing qualities when it comes to building characters, which could be a powerful tool. Critical race theory is the body of theory that I drew from for my research. Part of the focus of critical race theory is on storytelling and counter-storytelling to unmask and expose racism in its various permutations. Specifically, I'm working with Ibram X. Kendi's concept of anti-racism. Kendi's work with anti-racism uses critical race theory to develop a productive discourse surrounding race through the positioning of the anti-racist as an individual who doesn't find anything particularly right or wrong with any race, religion, or creed. As a morally consistent approach to race, this could be potentially suitable for exploration in classrooms. While graphic novels are engaging, studies found that AP students' significant literary skills are transferable to primarily visual texts. We can follow the same literary process to make meaning from the text, but students must also engage in visual literacy to make meaning. Carano and Clabo asserted that images used in graphic novels bring characters to life on the page in a way that makes the room for a higher level of interaction between students and graphic novels in a social studies classroom. Given that the graphic novel does this work to the characters it contains, this would also hold true in an English class. The need for visual literacy can provide a barrier for some students, but in 2017, Jimenez asserted through her research that teaching students to read graphic novels works the same way as teaching anything else. First, identify the skills that need to be acquired, then develop strategies that correspond to those skills. In my research, I also came across the idea of peace education, which asks students to question existing power structures, develop an understanding of the complex problems of the world, and find ways to address those problems. Peace education is conceptually more broad than anti-racism, but they have the same goal of developing understanding. Existing research shows that graphic novels are engaging and promote higher-level thinking. The same literary skills we use for traditional texts can be used for graphic novels, and visual literacy adds in another dimension to understanding. The images used in graphic novels highlight the personalities, values, and beliefs of characters in a way that humanizes them for readers. The graphic novels I chose for this study are Octavia Butler's Kindred and John Lewis's March Book 1. Both are award-winning graphic novels that have been #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list. Kindred is a work of science fiction, but March is John Lewis's first-hand account of the civil rights era. The first element that I noted of the imagery in the novels was the use of visceral or graphic imagery. March Book 1 had notably fewer instances of this element, but it often included images that showed the kind of violence that civil rights activists experienced firsthand. Kindred had racist violence at the forefront of the story. This imagery serves to promote sympathy rather than having some horrible occurrence codified into language. It sits right in front of the reader and almost forces them to consider what is occurring and how a person could do that to someone else and what it means to the people watching. It positions violence very realistically in relation to the characters to promote an understanding on the part of the reader. The second humanizing element of the imagery in both novels was the expressiveness of characters' faces. Rather than emotion being hidden behind language, it is largely written across their faces. The readers are thus directly confronted with the impact of events and moments upon characters. Additionally, shadows across the face are often used to convey intensity in certain moments or the particular feelings of a character. The facial expressions and of characters in both stories change over the course of the events they experience. You can track their emotional journeys by watching their faces as the story goes on. The third element that I identified was the use of parallel images. Many images in both texts are placed near each other and near other similarly composed images in order to draw contrasts between characters and moments or emphasize ideas. This practice positions the characters in conflict with one another and fleshes them out as dynamic. Their emotions don't just change, they change relative to one another. The contrast between particular moments also serves to emphasize the difference between characters' emotions under different circumstances. Visceral depictions of violence are ultimately a humanizing element in graphic novels because they provide readers with a depiction of a depiction that positions the impact of racist violence at the forefront of the moment. Expressive faces further emphasize the impact of these moments. The reader can see the fear, bravery, cruelty, love, doubt, or confidence expressed through human facial features. Parallel images draw readers towards a comparison of characters and moments that allow the text to build off of itself. These elements are used to bring characters to life on the page. They make them more real, more relatable, and ultimately more human. Graphic novels confront readers in an emotionally solvent manner by accentuating the humanity of characters through direct and indirect depiction of the personalities, values, and lived experiences of those characters. To have productive and cooperative conversations surrounding race and racism, we first need to understand one another. The tools at the disposal of graphic novels make them exceptional at providing room for this type of understanding. At our current juncture in the U.S., with racial tensions once again rising, that power could generate the kind of understanding we need for a brighter, more cooperative path with anti-racism.